Alright, so I am going to be making my own custom gimbal springs here because I did this with my Tyrannus way back in the day when I was using the FR Sky slow stuff, old hardware. I won't talk about that. I did it with my Tango over there, made custom springs for it, and now I'm going to do it with this because nobody sells gimbal springs that are stiff enough for me and the way I like it with my big giant sausage fingers, because I've been working with my hands my whole life. I cannot give you a link to these springs because, as you can see, I bought them from a little Chinese shop here in China. And it's all in Chinese, so there you go. If you can read Chinese, you can buy some from this shop too. They're a little bigger than the stock springs, not only around but of course longer, so we're going to be cutting those down and doing all that, and I'll show you how to do all that stuff. Piece of cake, nothing to it. What I suggest is, if you want to make some custom springs, just take a caliper and measure the thickness of the spring, and then go just a fuzz bigger. That's what I did, got them just a fuzz bigger so that they're a little stiffer than the stock ones. And then just, you know, Google it or search, and I'm sure you can find somebody that sells some little springs. So here we go! So let's do some gimbal springs. We got our radio apart. If you're not sure how to take it apart, there's a video in this playlist on how to crack the shell on this nut. So we got it separated, and we got the gimbal half here, and I'm gonna replace the gimbal springs because I like really super tight gimbal springs, because I don't fly with any deadbands, so it really helps me track better. And you can see I got very big fingers, so it helps from not wiggling. I keep my throttle like super loose, and then my yaw and my roll I like really tight, and then my pitch and roll just a little looser. So the stock springs aren't quite cutting it. So the first thing we're going to do after we get our radio apart is take out these 4 screws here holding down the little PDB board that runs the Hall sensor on the gimbal. And I already cheated and took some out so you guys don't have to watch me unscrew screws, because nobody needs to watch anybody unscrew screws. And then I'm going to take a little piece of blue tack, or you can take tape or whatever you want, but I want to hold this up out of my way so that it's not flopping around in my way when I'm trying to mess with this gimbal, like so. Alright. The other thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be replacing the... all my screws are magnetized to my screwdriver. Is we're going to replace the stock 10mm screws with some 12mm screws. So we can go ahead and take out the stock screws, and your gimbal screws are going to be this one here for the spring, and this guy here. So first of all, on my throttle, which is on this side, well, we'll just do this gimbal, because once you see one gimbal, I don't have to show you the other one. It's the exact same thing, just on the other side. So we're going to go ahead and take out the stock screws all the way out. And just set them to the side for now. Okay, So now that the stock screws are out of there, the next thing I'm going to want to do is get the spring off the top of this little gimbal guy here. So actually, I should have left this screw in there just a fuzz, which I'm going to do. So I can pull that little guy out of its slot and take the spring off. So now we have no spring on that side. The next thing I'm going to do is take this little arm right here, just take it right on out. And you see now, there's my little gimbal spring right there and this little arm. And I'm going to take that spring off. And actually, the springs that I have to replace them with are far bigger than these stock springs, because these are not actually gimbal springs, because I wanted stiffer, bigger springs. So as you can see, this spring is far bigger than this little feller here. So I'm going to customize this spring. And if you guys have regular like gimbal springs or whatever, you can fast forward past this part, but we're going to take this over to the bench and customize it. So stand by. Alright guys, so this is a fairly simple deal here. All I'm going to do is kind of eyeball this spring up, because we're going to use longer screws, so it doesn't need to be like perfectly exactly the perfect length. And then I'm just going to stick my fingernail in there, kind of like so. I know you can't see that right now, sorry, but I stuck my fingernail down into the spring to measure it out there. Get another light on the subject, like so, and then I'm just going to stretch that part out. So I'm left with that little bitty spring right there. That's just a fuzz longer than that stock one, and I'm going to clip her off my trusty clippers, and it looks like I'm going to be able to get 2 springs out of this one spring, so we're going to go ahead and make them both right now. And then I know you guys probably are not going to be able to see this, but you're going to understand. I'm going to take my needle nose pliers and just make a new loop on the end of that spring right there. No big deal. Roll her on over. Now we got a new little loop on there, and I'm going to use this and come back here. Keep bumping the camera too. I'm going to use the end that I just made the new loop on. Focus. I guess you guys can kind of see that even though it's not in focus. And what I'm going to do is put that on the top of my arm here. You'll see there's a little hook right there. So the hook side goes down. I'm going to put that on the top of my arm, and then I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to squish it on there real good so that it is kind of stuck on there. Alrighty, so there we go. That should be good. So the next thing we're going to do is make a custom gimbal spring insertion tool. We're going to take a paper clip, and all we're going to do is bend a little teeny hook like so, on the end of the paper clip so we can hook the gimbal spring and pull it up and hook it on. Really easy. Okay, so now we're gonna fish our little arm back underneath inside of there. I know this is really hard for you guys to see. Maybe I should have put the camera on my head or something. But anyway, we're gonna fish the arm back underneath there, and the reason we wanted the gimbal spring nice and tight on there is because we want it to stay upright when we stick the little arm back in underneath. So the spring stays in place when we get it in there. And we can use our little custom hook here to help guide it in there. And some tweezers and 15 other things to mess with this little tiny little itty bitty guy. So there we go. The arm is back in its place underneath there. And I may need to go to my magnifying glass for this next one, but we'll see if I can do it over here. Essentially what we're going to do is we're going to stick this little slider piece back down in there, and you can see the hook on it. And then we're just going to hook the spring back on there. Really easy. In theory. But I am definitely going to need the magnifying glass to do this. There we go, we got her hooked. We can stretch her out. Put her back over the gimbal. Or the screw slider dealy thingy. This paper clip, I chose the wrong paper clip because it has paint on it. As you can see, I got chipped the paint off of there. But there we go. There is our new stiffer gimbal spring on there. So now, I guess we can just do that here. I've already put the longer screw in there. We are just going to tension her down and we're good to go. Then we just play with the tension to where we want it. Dave from the future here. Stealing that from old Bardwell. One little thing I forgot to mention. These screws on these gimbals actually screw down into the gimbal. They just don't butt up against the bottom like some of your other gimbals, like almost every other gimbal I've ever seen, which is awesome because that makes them so much more stable, and it just speaks to the workmanship of this radio. But anyway, after you screw your screw in there a fuzz, you're going to want to push down on that so that slider's all the way down at the bottom before you start screwing it in, because this screw actually goes into the gimbal itself, and that will give you the full deal on the screw. Now you could, if you think you can't stretch it out any further than these 12mm screws. Don't try to use 14mm or anything, and I'll show you why. Because 12mm is the limit that's going to clear. Oh, I got this glare here. That's going to clear this PDB here. If you go any taller than a 12mm, it's going to hit the little computer board that goes on the bottom of the gimbal. 12mm is your max. So after that, if they're not tight enough, you're going to have to change the springs like we're doing right here. Boom. I'm going to go ahead and take it all the way down and then back it off where I want it. So let me see what we got here. Oh, that's much better. Much better. Far stiffer than the stock one. Oh my God, yeah, that is perfect. So now you see when I pitch and roll, I don't accidentally move the stick a little bit side to side. So I get nice, clean, smooth pitch and move rolls without any bobble in there from me accidentally hitting the roll. I mean pitch and, yeah, you know what I mean. Pitch moves without any roll, because I have a nice stiff spring in there now. Oh, that feels so nice. Oh. Okay guys, for the one on the other side, we're going to do things a little bit different because it's a little more exposed. Once I get the spring off of there, and of course my little slider fell out, all I'm going to do, and I already have my custom spring that I made here, all I'm going to do is grab my needle nose and fish that spring down inside there and hook it on. Because it's exposed, it's not so hard to get to. Hang on to it with my needle nose here, and then I got to get under my magnifying glass here. And where's my trusty gimbal tool? I'm going to grab onto that guy so I don't lose her, because it's kind of fiddly to get it hooked on there. My little thing fell out again, but that's okay. That's alright. Let's grab the tweezers here. This might be the ticket, because they're a little thinner on the end, and I've used them so much they have a little bent hook on there. So let's get a hold of that guy like so. There we go. And then there's our slider, and we are just going to hook the spring on there. I know you guys can't see this because of my big giant fat hand and fingers in the way, but I will show you now as close as I can get, and hopefully it's kind of in focus. All I did was, oh, I'm over here. All I did was hook the spring on the bottom of that and then stretch it on the top and put it back on that little slider right there. And all we're gonna do, pardon me, I don't have like a awesome studio build setup thing here, so just got my GoPro on a little hand tripod, so you're gonna have to bear with me bumping the camera and all that stuff. So then we just screw in our screw, and there we go. We have two custom gimbal springs. Now this one is actually my pitch or elevator, whatever you want to call it. So I like that just a little bit looser. Wow. World of difference. World of difference, my friends. So there you go. That's how we do the old gimbal spring. I hope this helped you out. It can be frustrating. They are tiny. Just take your time. You know, walk away for a minute if you have to, but you can do it. You can. If an idiot like me with big giant sausage fingers can get them little springs in there, you can do it too. Now, I know there's other methods. You can take this gimbal apart and do it, but this is just the way I do it. So I hope that helped some of you guys out. And let her rip, Tater Chip! Okay, so this is our throttle side, and the only thing we're going to do different on the throttle side is we have to remove this little tensioner bar here. That's just so you can have drag on your throttle, if you like some drag on your throttle to make it a little tighter. And I'm actually going to leave the stock throttle spring in there because I like my throttle super loose, so I can, you know, really precision with it, pump it up and down, and then we're going to just replace the yaw spring. So other than that, it's exactly the same as the other side. So we're just going to take that little tensioner off and replace that spring. There we go. So here she is, all back together. And in the next video, I will show you, well, maybe the next video, I'm not sure, but coming up soon in this same playlist, I'll show you how to do the custom sounds. Now, as you can see, like I said, I leave my throttle really loose, and now my yaw is nice and tight, which means I can pump the throttle and not accidentally induce any yaw while I'm doing that. And I do the same thing over here. Actually, my pitch is much tighter than my throttle, obviously, and then my roll is extra tight because I'm a pincher. Well, I'm kind of a hybrid. So what happens is when I pitch without having these springs nice and tight, I'll induce some roll in there. So now I can pitch and do my back flips, my snap flips, snap front flips, snap rolls, and everything is nice and clean without any accidental movements in there. So there we go. That's that. And thanks for watching.